This is going to be part 3 in our Shooting Fundamentals series. The topic is aiming. The topics I'll be covering today are eye dominance and eye orientation, sight alignment, sight picture, and various holds that handguns have. Let's head over to the whiteboard. Okay, so before we get into talking about sight alignment and sight picture, we first have to determine eye dominance. Ideally, whether you're shooting a reflex optic like a red dot or using iron sights, it's definitely optimal to have both eyes open. Your dominant eye will be accessing the sights, and your non-dominant eye will be providing depth perception and peripheral vision. So there's little tests that we do to determine eye dominance that I'm going to show you. I've drawn a dot on the board here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to bring my hands up, put the dot inside my shape. I'm now going to bring my hands slowly back towards my face, keeping the dot inside my shape. When I arrive, my hand should be in front of my dominant eye. Once we've determined that, we have to talk a little bit about orientation of the handgun. If you're same side dominant, in other words, right hand shooter, right eye dominant, when you bring your hands up, your eye is naturally going to be in front of the sights because it's going to be on the right side. However, a lot of people are what we call cross dominant. That could be right-handed, left eye dominant, or vice versa. In that case, we're going to have to make a small adjustment. So let me show you. What you can do is you can bring your gun up as usual and kind of split the difference. I bring the gun very slightly over to my left side and I turn my head to the right to get my left eye in front of the sight. And that's how we're gonna solve that issue. Okay, let's talk about sight alignment. Basically, aligning your front and rear sights so they are level. First thing we have to talk about is where the orientation of the handgun is going to be relative to your eyes. Mistakes that newer shooters make are they don't bring the gun up to eye level. They'll do something like this. They'll bring the gun up to about chin level, look over it, and then do this to try and see that front sight, and of course the shots go way high. I see this all the time in beginner classes. So, very important that the handgun sights are level with your eyeball, okay? One line, just like this. So you're looking through the rear sight. You should not see any of the slide of the handgun. Next, we're going to align the sights. So what does that look like? Typically, if the camera is the eyes, the dominant eye is going to be looking through the rear sight. We have two aspects to sight alignment. We have elevation, the up and down aspect, and we have windage, the lateral aspect. So this would be an example of both elevation and windage being out of alignment, okay? In that case, the shooter, if the shooter is the camera, would be shooting high left, all right? That would be low left, etc. So let's align the sights starting with the elevation. I'm going to make sure that the top edges are level, and I'm going to make sure that there's equal amount of light on each side of that sight, okay? And that's going to be our sight alignment. The focus of the shooter's vision should be on the front sight, okay? So hard front sight focus. Sight picture is how your aligned sights relate to your target, okay? So where do I need to place these sights in order to put the bullet where I want it? This is going to bring me to various holds that different handguns have based on the height, say, of their iron sights. Obviously, if you're shooting a reflex optic like a red dot, you're going to have to zero that dot for a specific distance. But I'm going to be talking about iron sights here. So there are three basic holds that a handgun can have. For the bullet holes to appear in the middle of the target, holding down here, that's called a 6 o'clock hold, okay? A lot of people call it a lollipop hold, that kind of thing, pumpkin on a post, all right? So 6 o'clock hold is here. Then we have center hold. The sights are held over the center of the target. The bullet holes would appear just above the front sight. And then the third type of hold would be a combat hold or 12 o'clock hold. That is where basically you're covering up the target in this way with the front sight, and then your bullet holes are going to appear just below the front sight. And obviously there's everything in between, but that's kind of the range. What I want to do now is I've got 9 handguns. all with different types of sights, all different manufacturers, some aftermarket, some came with the gun, and I want to demonstrate the different holds. So let's head out on the range and see what that looks like. Okay, so we talked about the hold on different handguns. If you purchase a handgun factory, it's going to have factory sights on it. A lot of people like to change the sights. If you do, you're going to have to determine if the hold on your factory sights is different from the new ones that you put on. So here's a little test, a way that I suggest you try it. I have this target. I'm not going to be aiming for the bullseye here. What I'm aiming for actually is this thick line right here in the middle. I'm going to align my sights and run the top edges of the sights on that line, okay? And I'm going to fire 3 rounds. Where the point of impact is going to tell me kind of what the hold is. So in other words, if the hold is really low, that means I would have to hold the sights high to hit on that line. If the point of impact is right on the line, I'm going to know that I have a center hold. So let's give it a shot and see what our results are. This is the HK VP9. This is the Springfield Ronin 1911. This is a 1980s Sig Sauer P226. This is a Glock 17 second generation, Glock 17 fifth generation, Glock 17 fourth generation with aftermarket sights on it. This is a FN 509. This is the Sig Sauer P226 Legion, and this is the CZ Shadow 2. All right, let's start with the VP9. So 3 shots with my sights aligned right on that line. Next in order. Okay, remember I am aiming at the center line here, aligning my sights, putting my top edges right on that line so I can kind of see what the hold is. Next. Now you'll notice between manufacturers I have 4 Glocks on the table. I'm not doing that because I'm partial to them. I'm doing that to demonstrate that even between generations of handguns, you can see a difference in the hold. You'll notice probably between the Gen 2 and the Gen 5 and 4 that the holds are a little bit different on those. Okay, so right now I've got the Gen 5 in my hand. This is the Gen 4. Okay, now here we have the FN. Let's look at this real quick. Suppressor sights. All right, be careful if you switch to suppressor sights because they're quite a bit higher than normal factory sights. You're going to have to hold quite high on these. And you'll see it on the paper. Save the best for last here, the CZ Shadow. All right, let's have a look at the results. So just to be clear, again, I held every single pistol exactly like this and shot them, which means that if I wanted to bisect the line here with, say, the HK VP9, I would have to hold higher to do that, okay? So that's what this is about. The line here is just a reference point. So notice the VP9 has quite a bit of a combat hold or 12 o'clock hold. Sig Sauer is a little bit closer. The Glock 17 Gen 2 has a very distinct center hold, and I knew that already. Look at the difference between the generations, Gen 2 versus Gen 5. The Gen 4 has aftermarket sights on. It's got Trijicon night sights on it, and that seemed also to be pretty much a center hold. Look at the suppressor height sights on the FN 509. See how low those shots are? So in other words, with that gun, if I wanted to hit in the center of the line here, I'd have to hold way high to do that, okay? Keep that in mind if you're using suppressor sights. Here's the Legion, which I knew was going to be a little bit of a combat hold as well. The CZ Shadow, same thing. And the 1911 seems to be pretty much a center hold. So that's the way you're going to determine what the hold on your particular handgun is. So that concludes the lesson on aiming. As you can see, there are many aspects to it involved. And as you become more advanced, you'll find that there are different ways you can use your sights and use your eyes. This is kind of just a starting point for fundamentals.